Welcome to Powerless Penguins.
Okay.
Welcome to Powerless Penguins United Big Book Study. This week, I'm pleased to reintroduce Meg Steig. Over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody, thank you for your service. It's great to be here, as always. My name is Mags, and I'm an alcoholic. And we are coming towards the end of Into Action this morning. And not too much to cover, really. But then when I say that, by the time we get to the end of it, maybe we'll have covered a lot. I don't know. We're going to see where this one goes this morning. I had a couple of calls during the week about the stuff that we covered last week. So it's really interesting to hear people's experience of what they haven't been doing, what they thought they were doing, the change in their mindset when they've started to understand, actually applying the principles that are set out and getting into the rhythm and routine of that. So, it's always good to hear from people as to how they're finding this book study useful. Because always, and I mean always, after every single one of these book studies, I then go into my little routine of, what was that all about? Or I didn't say this, or I should have said that. And, all of that, morbid reflection on things that my mind and my thinking can take me to. And I have to really kick into my step 10 after every single one of these sessions, because my thinking wants to take me somewhere else, and this book study has taught me a lot, about this, the importance of applying these principles. There's things that I take to my inventory on a Saturday night that are still with me from 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, and the growth, and this is not me being, self-centered in any way. This is me just sharing my experience of having to rock up every Saturday morning to do this. This is an opportunity for me to continue to watch myself in step 10 and bring myself to my inventory in step 11, and it 100% is making me more effective in step 12, because that's what this is about, our daily reprieve. Chuck, what a beautiful hat today. That's gorgeous. I've not seen that one before. God. And I was listening to you doing the reading there as well, and you could do a podcast, definitely. Yeah, we could listen to clear-cut directions from you. I would listen very intently. Anyway, we digress. I don't even know where I was with my point there. So step 10, we've been covering that a few weeks ago, where we live in step 10 every single day. And every single day I'm learning in step 11 as I, improve my conscious contact with God. I'm learning from that power every single moment of the day. And I'm growing in step 12. I've always, somebody else taught me it, of course. I didn't know this myself, but step 10 and 11 is not about me feeling better about myself. Step 10 and 11 is not me, it's just not me feeling better about myself. That is the byproduct of the practice. Step 10 and 11, most importantly, is about making me more effective in step 12 and practicing these principles on all of my affairs and trying to carry the message to those that need it. So last week we covered the second meditation within step 11, of which there are 3. Our first one being when we retire at night. The second, on awakening. We've got one more little paragraph of instructions for the on awakening meditation as we bring that to a conclusion. And then we go into the third meditation, which is as we go through the day. Who knew you can meditate as you go through the day? But that's what the instructions outline. So we're on page 87. The paragraph begins, we usually conclude the period of meditation. Well, there you go. They're pointing out at this point that it is a meditation. They don't necessarily use the word meditation when we retire at night, and they don't use the word meditation as we go through the day. But that doesn't mean to say that the prior and the after are not meditations. Step 11 is a prayer and meditation practice, all of it. So we usually conclude the period of meditation from the unawakening with another prayer. Because remember, we've had prayers throughout this. On awakening, we ask God to direct our thinking, as set out on page 86. We're asking that it be divorced especially from self-pity, from dishonest or self-seeking motives. In thinking about our day, we've been asking for inspiration, an intuitive thought, or a decision. So in our morning meditation, we're in this constant exercise of practice and prayer. And here's another little one. I love the way they just wrap this up with a big bow at the end of your morning meditation, even before you step out into the day. Your prayer life is so abundant. Your thought life is so abundant. Because remember, this is all about our thoughts. It's all about our thinking. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. That we're asking God to direct our thinking. That our thought life will be placed on that much higher plane. That our thinking is cleared of wrong motives when we're thinking about our day. This constant reminder that this is all about my thinking, it tells us right back on page 19 that the elimination of our drinking was just the beginning. It tells us later on that our illness centers in our mind, all of those things. There's always been this little nod to the fact that this is about our mind, right from the very, very beginning. But through step 10, 11 and 12, they really bring it all together to help us truly understand that this daily reprieve, daily, for the rest of our lives, we must not rest on our laurels because we know that alcohol is a subtle foe, that we have to increase this muscle, our brain muscle. We have to keep it in fit spiritual condition. We maintain it. We maintain the condition by practicing 10 and 11 every single day. And through that practice, the power that is greater than us sorts the condition. As long as we stay close to Him and do His work well. Dead simple. So, at the end of your unawakening, we're asking for this prayer that we be shown all through the day. Not just here and there. All through the day. These words, you know how much I love the fact that the words in the book are such laser precision. Okay, they've been very meticulous in how they've selected the words because they know what we're like. If each one of us took our own interpretation of this, which has actually happened over the years since the big book was printed. You sometimes sit in the rooms and people are talking about things that they believe to be Alcoholics Anonymous. And actually it's not. It's their own interpretation of what it has become for them. But the importance of when we're carrying the message is that we're carrying the message of Alcoholics Anonymous, those principles that are set out in the big book, the 164 pages. There's things, and I'll come on to it in the next paragraph, there's things that I do for my own spiritual practice and meditation and prayers, but I don't talk about it in the rooms of the fellowship, because that would be tradition 10, an outside matter, that I don't bring outside matters into this fellowship. But what I can do is still continue to talk about the principles that are set out here. But as I say, I'll come on to that in the next paragraph. So we're praying that we be shown all through the day what our next step is to be. that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. What problems? With such problems as the self-pity, the dishonest, the self-seeking motives. Such problems as jealousy, envy, such problems of those self-centered thoughts, such problems as all of those 22 different versions of self that are set out in the actor running the show. Such problems as driven by 100 forms of fear, as set out on page 62. Such problems as selfishness, self-centeredness, that is the root of my problem. Isn't that amazing that you have this absolute, unlimited, changeless resource inside you that all through the day you can tap into to take care of such problems? Whatever we need to take care of such problems. You know, this is not just, and you know I bang on about this, this is not about me just handing it over there, God, take care of all of that. What it's saying here is we're asking for his help, the prayer, that we be given whatever we need to take care of such problems. What is the power that I need to take care of this problem? That we be shown what that is. Truly and utterly, I am shown through this practice what I need to do, what my next step can be in any given day. And it does take practice. It is strenuous, but the more and more we practice it, the more and more it becomes a working part of my mind. And here's another laser precision piece directing us. We ask, we know anywhere we ask, it's another prayer. We ask especially. Isn't that beautiful? They're pinpointing where they know that we're going to need this help, especially for freedom from self-will. Isn't that powerful? In any given moment of the day, I have the opportunity to tap into that inner resource, that all-powerful, like it says at the top of page 59, may you find him now, and now, and now, and now, each step of the way, in every single breath, that you may have the freedom from self-will. Released from the bondage of yourself in any given moment of the day. Remember, in our third step prayer, we'd made this decision. We'd asked God to take away the difficulties, so victory over them, that people could bear witness to his power, his love, his way of life. This way of life. To build with you, to do with you. This is a partnership. This is a relationship. Your life is not, you're not doing life by yourself. You are literally, by this stage in the process, not doing anything by yourself. Because here's the thing, think about this. Well, this is my experience of this. I truly am never alone. I am never, ever alone. If I have a feeling of loneliness, I ask for that to be removed. And in that instant, I tune into something else. I am never alone. That's the power of the grace that is greater than me. And to know that all through the day, at every single junction that I face, that there's something else there to support, to guide, to direct me, to engage with me. Like, you might think, this lovely word of mine, you might think this is a bit woo-woo. But see, whilst I'm talking to people, or even whilst I'm sitting here with you guys, I'm having this conversation, but there's something else going on as well. There's something, I'm in this constant conversation with something else, this other entity. I'm in this constant, my life mantra now that I've been taught by my sponsor, that has become a working part of my mind, is that no matter what, genuinely, I'm always in this practice of setting aside every single thing I think I know to have a new experience with God. Constantly. If somebody calls me on the phone and they're asking me this question, often I'll be very quiet, and because I'm constantly setting aside every single thing I think I know to have a new experience with God, and as much as I possibly can, not jumping in to give my opinion, my judgment, or anything with regards to what this person might be asking me about. You know, when I'm at work, where I spend a huge amount of my time, I'm in this constant, okay, this person's standing talking to me, setting aside every single thing I think I know to have a new experience with God. What that practice enables me to do is to come away from my own thinking, from my own projections. What this practice does is enables me to bring something else to the party. That I'm not coming from the place of self-will, and I'm not coming from the place of the bondage of myself. And there's another little caveat here. So we are asking especially for freedom from self-will, but we're also careful to make no request for ourselves only. And then it goes on. We may ask for ourselves, however, because remember, we learnt about this right back on page 13. We've covered this over the last number of weeks. Page 13 in Bill's story, there's that beautiful summary of the 12 steps. So we may ask for ourselves, however, if others will be helped. So I'm constantly praying for myself. Constantly praying for myself to be able to know what to do when others need help. Not just sponsees, but my family, the dog, the people that I work with, the people on the bus that sit beside me, the people that might be in the line when I'm standing in a shop. You know, I'm constantly praying for myself when, you know, even on the bus yesterday, there was a gentleman who was clearly under the influence of drugs and alcohol, who was causing all sorts of chaos on public transport. And you could see the fear of people. You could see that people felt uncomfortable, and you could see people chose to get off the bus because of this man's behaviour. And all the while, all I sat and did very, very quietly to myself was, how can I be helpful? How can I be helpful? Show me what I need to do. You know? And in those moments, what I am doing then is asking God to remove my fear of what this gentleman is going to do. And asking for my fear to be removed, which it was, I then resolutely turn my thoughts to other people. Because I could see that the people beside me were feeling discomfort too. But the moment my fear was removed, I was able to turn to the other 3 people sitting near me to say, it's okay. It's all they needed to hear. It's okay. And in that moment, they're able to take a breath and say to the next person, it's okay. And then you hear people turn and say, God love him. Isn't that beautiful? Rather than this heightened, oh my God, we're going to be in trouble, something's going to happen, all of this noise and chaos. No, God love him. Because he needs help too. Now that's a really simple example of how my connection into the practice that I have. No one need know what's going on with my practice. No one needs to know that I'm part of a fellowship where I have this daily practice. Why do they need to know? The only person that needs to know is me. The only person that needs to practice is me. So in that moment yesterday, like you guys do, I'm no angel, by the way, and you'll find out about that as we go on the rest of the chapter. Definitely no angel, but you know that about me already. Some of the things that I think in my mind. So we may ask for ourselves if others may be helped, if others may be helped. And on page 13, just in case you're not aware, it basically says this. It starts the paragraph with, I was to test my thinking by the new God consciousness within. Common sense would thus become uncommon sense. That's your step 10. I'm not going to go into all of the detail of that. But step 11, where we're at today, I was to sit quietly when in doubt, asking only for direction and strength to meet my problems as he would have me. That's your meditation. Never was I to pray for myself, except as my requests bore on my usefulness to others. There you go. So we do pray for ourselves when we need to be more useful to others. And what happens as a result of that? Then only might I receive. Here's the thing though. That would be in great measure. And that is where the abundance in my life comes from. When I pray for myself to be more helpful and more useful to other people, I receive in great measure. Not just the ability to help other individuals, but I receive in great measure peace of mind, clarity, direction, strength, calmness, compassion, the ability to be kind, to be non-judgmental, to have no opinion, to meet every single person where they're at. That man on the bus yesterday, all that was happening with him was that his aggression, his fight, his language, every single thing about him was just a call for love. It was simply that. It was a call for love. And as a result of that, seeing that reflection from him, seeing the distress that he was in, understanding the distress that he was in, what do? Well, we reciprocate. We give him that love. And it's not that we're running up and down the bus, hugging everybody, kissing everybody. Do you know what I mean? Giving them flowers and balloons and do you know how loved you are? All we're doing is making that demonstration. And that will come to you in whatever way it comes to you. But that's what this life is all about. I've told you before about myself. I'm not running up and down the streets like Mother Teresa. You know, there's the simple demonstrations that people can bear witness to. God's love, power, and this way of life by the very simple things that we do. You know, I'm speaking to the choir here. You guys do all of this. And if you don't, then maybe we got to start tuning in to that inner resource that guides me. This personality change, this psychic change, this is all a change in my thinking. It's all a change in my perception. What happened on that bus yesterday with that gentleman was a pure and utter miracle. It was a miracle. Miracles are really simple things. We use it in this fellowship, that word, all the time. It tells us later on in the big book, and we'll cover those in those chapters. You know, it tells us later on, miracles are all around us. They are all around us. As long as I have the awakened, opened eyes, open mind, willingness and honesty to be able to change my perception. My perception is changed as a result of doing this practice and tapping into something else. Miracles are everywhere at any given moment of the day because I have the opportunity to change my perception about what I see. Previously, if that man had have got on the bus, I would have got off the bus because I was too afraid. That's the extent of where my fear would have taken me. No longer the case. because there's nobody on this planet that can harm me. No one. That's the change in my thinking as a result of all of this practice. And so it goes on. Many of us wasted a lot of time doing that, and it doesn't work. You can easily see why. So a lot of the times we have prayed for ourselves only to get what we wanted, only to get when we wanted it, not to be useful to other people, just to get what we wanted when we wanted for our own ends, our own selfish, self-centered means. And how did we get to that? Often we were dishonest. We were selfish. Through our jealousy, we acted out. Through our self-pity, our self-seeking motives, we prayed to get what we wanted and used all of those manifestations of self to get what we wanted. And it was no use nor ornament to anybody. And it certainly wasn't any use to ourselves. It was a vicious circle. And like we talked about last week, this is not a vicious circle of practice. This is an absolute continuum of this practice where we make spiritual progress, not the spiritual perfection. What got me through yesterday is not going to be enough to get me through today. What gets me through today is not going to be enough to get me through tomorrow. Because I'm growing in understanding and effectiveness every single day. I'm making this progress every single day. And that's the beauty of this. I am not the same person that I was yesterday as I am today. I'm really not. Because I'm growing more and more and more towards whatever my new employer needs me to be. I never know in any given day what my assignment is going to be. Laws and I were just talking, and a few of us before the meeting, that, this weekend is a very, very, very quiet weekend. Can't wait for a beautifully quiet, peaceful weekend. That's the plan in my mind. Who knows what this power is going to put on my plate? The assignment could change by the time I leave this meeting. And the ability to be agile enough to move with that, to flow with that, is just so incredibly powerful. I didn't have the ability to do that before. And it goes on to talk about that later on. So that's the conclusion of your unawakening. Who knew that those few paragraphs could bring such an amazing amount of prayer and meditation into one's life? And how much time you spend on that? It's up to you what that looks like. But the reality of it is, and we've talked about this over the last number of weeks, this is about discipline, discipline, discipline. And we'll understand why when we turn the next page. The people that wrote this book know what we're like. Some people might have the ability in their life to do unawakening for 2.5 hours. I don't. I don't have that. But what I have is this way of living that ensures the discipline is there no matter what. I gave the example last week. If I have to start work at 6 o'clock in the morning, then I don't negate the unawakening. I pull the unawakening practice forward. That cannot be neglected because it's happened previously and I've slipped out of the discipline and I have suffered the consequences of the lack of discipline. Because I don't step into the day on the right foot. I don't step into the day with the right thought life. I don't step into the day having asked for all of those motives of mine to be removed. And I suffer the consequences genuinely very, very, very quickly. And I don't like that feeling. And I don't like my reaction to life when I don't sustain this practice. Therefore, why would I not sustain this practice? It's as simple as that. And often, and I've said this before as well, if somebody calls me, a sponsee calls me out of the blue and I haven't heard them from a little period of time, which often is the case, and they'll start going blah, 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 and this is happening, that's not happening, this is going wrong, and no, 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 and I think I need to go through the steps again. So you've come to that conclusion yourself, have you? Well, let's talk about where you're at first of all in step 10. How's that practice going for you? And they talk to me about everything but step 10. And then I ask them about step 11. And then talk to me about everything but step 11. And then I say, well, how many people are you helping right now? How many sponsees have you got on the go? How many meetings are you attending and how many service positions do you have? And they talk to me about everything but that. And then I say, okay, now it makes sense as to why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. Let's start back into that 10, 11 and 12. Discipline. Let's start right there in the first instance. And then see how things go. Everybody thinks it's a step 1 problem when they're getting a little bit irky because they haven't practiced step 10, 11 and 12. Now, don't get me wrong. Don't start quoting me on this. AA police will be knocking at my door and saying, oh, well, it probably is a step 1 problem. Well, if it is, you'll get to the bottom of that through your practice and you're talking with your sponsor. I'm just talking about my experience when I talk to my sponsees, that if they've slipped off that certain simple attitude and stopped practicing 10, 11 and 12, there's a very certain simple attitude that you can just recalibrate, adjust the dial and start talking about, boom, this is where we're at. You're filled with self, you're filled with fear, you're filled with dishonesty, you're filled with resentment, you're filled with, when was the last time you asked God to remove that? When did you resolutely turn your thoughts? What was your prayer and meditation in the morning? What was your inventory telling you? You fairly get to the point of what's not happening in the program. Laser, precision, just by bringing people back to the clear-cut directions. I never give an opinion on them. I never give a judgment on what they're saying or what they're doing. I always bring them back to the spiritual principles because that's my job. I don't start sorting out their problems. Oh, my boyfriend's ditched me and, he's got another girlfriend and they're going to get engaged in the next 4 months. Are they? How do you know all of that? All of our crazy thinking takes us all down another route altogether. I don't want to know about the relationship breaking up and all of that. I'm very sorry to hear that, of course, if that's happened to anybody. But let's come back to what's happening inside you, because that's what lies. That's what we need to get to the crux of. What's happening inside you? Why does it matter that he's left you? Why does it matter that he's going to somebody else? That's what's important. Because that's the stuff that's rising to the surface inside us that needs to be healed inside us. Because we're never going to heal the other person or do whatever, change the other person. All we can do is affect the change inside us. All I can do is affect the change inside me. And when I affect the change with this power, when that is changed inside me, that personality change, that psychic change continues to happen over and over and over again, where I become more and more and more awake to the blocks of the awareness of God's presence in me. When I become more and more and more awake to that, I can then be a demonstration to everybody else. And then all of a sudden, everybody else starts to change, but they haven't. It's me that has. It's my thoughts that have changed. See how it all works? So if circumstances warrant, I love, 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 love this paragraph. Love it. They give us a little break here. They kind of, okay, guys, we've given you enough directions and all of that, but here's a little something that you can do to contribute to your own personal development. Here's something that you might be able to use much more effectively than you have done previously. So if circumstances warrant, we ask our wives or friends to join us in morning meditation. A beautiful thing. If that's part of your life, then do that. I know lots of people that bring their family together. More often than not, when I'm here in this place, my little dog is joining me. He seems to love it. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing. And later on, when we go into the chapters of working with others and the family afterwards, and the chapters of the wives, it talks about bringing the family together and finding their spiritual practice. So family starts to change too when we go through all of this. People often smile at this stage and go, what? I'm not bringing my partner into the meditation. He's an idiot. I'm not doing that. Those kids are running mental around the house. I do my meditation to get away from them. That may well be the case. But who knows what's going to happen the more and more you practice it and they start to bear witness to these demonstrations, you know? Who knows? Keep an open mind to that too. And if we do belong to a religious denomination which requires a definite morning meditation, we attend to that also. Of course you do. If you're part of a religious organisation, don't neglect that practice that you have. For sure, do not. But do not negate the fact that you have to set the clear-cut directions within the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. You can't replace those. They're your prescription for the progressive illness that we have, you know. We have this daily reprieve. You can't replace these clear-cut directions with something that's got absolutely nothing to do with your program of action and your program of recovery. So there are some morning devotions that I do and morning prayers that I do. If not members of religious bodies, we sometimes select and memorize a few set prayers which emphasize the principles we have been discussing. So the principles that we've been discussing are just literally around the prayer meditation about being relieved of the bondage of self, being relieved of all of those versions of self, being relieved from the selfishness, the self-centeredness, those prayers that enable us to get the direction to help other individuals, how we can be more useful. All of those things are important. Like, my selection of prayers in the morning comes from so many different faiths, so many different books. I used to be that person when I started out on this journey where I had 17,000 prayers every morning to read, and I only did like 16,999 of them. And then the one that I didn't do, I thought that was the one that messed up my day. Like I was on this mission of, you know, trying to become this whatever, and one prayer would wreck the day when I didn't say it. I mean, that is just absolutely ridiculous. That's not what this is about. What I'm able to do now is to have a little selection, to ebb and flow with it, you know, do some two-way prayer, because that's a beautiful practice that someone has shared with me, and I get great insight from the power when I do that, you know. This is all about contemplation and bringing things to mind. And so all of those prayers and methods that other faiths use are really, really, really important. And I love the exploration of all of that. This is where this program of action, this program of recovery, I learn every single day, because my mind is so open to what you guys have to share with me. And, you know, all of those, it goes on to say that there are many helpful books also. Do you remember all of those books that you bought before you got recovered? Yeah, Lorraine's laughing. Did you have a library too? Yeah, I had a library. Yeah. Look at all of the nods on the screen. You know that library that you have? Of all of those self-help books? And all of those religious books that you had, you know, from all of those magnificent writers, and you tapped in here and there to them. Well, use them. Use them. I'm not into real self-help books. I'm not. No, anything prefixed with the word self isn't good for me. Yeah, but get those books out. Start to read them through the lens from which you're seeing things now. You know, you've had this personality change. There's got to be something within those books that jumps out at you. I, over the last number of years, have posted books that I've read to other sponsees, and whether they like them or not, just pick them up. Be curious about stuff like this. This is where we grow in understanding and effectiveness. It's a really powerful thing. You can get suggestions about these, and they can be obtained from one's priest, minister, or rabbi. Yeah, tap into all of these people. I've got somebody who's from a different faith who I see regularly, and I just adore spending time with him. He's a very, very quiet individual. He doesn't talk a lot. All he does is ask questions most of the time. But that's his way of bringing stuff to the fore for me. You know, his practice would have him just sit and nod. And I love that. I really love that. And this is the part that really blows my mind. And I tap into this all the time. Be quick to see. Be quick to see where religious people are right. Make use of what they offer. You may not be part of a religious denomination. I'm not part of a religious organization or denomination. Although I tap into so many of them, every now and again I'll go to a church or a synagogue or a mosque. I tap into everything and anything, you know. Be quick to see where they're right in their prayer and meditation, you know, their rituals of fasting, of their rituals of being of service, their rituals of everything that they have within it. Because long gone are the days on page 49 within We Agnostics, where, it's a beautiful paragraph, the very bottom page, where they're teaching us they beg us to lay aside our prejudice against organized religion. Because at that point in our program, we've probably got all of that prejudice and opinions. You know, we bristle with antagonism, what it says earlier on in We Agnostics, about anything to do with God or religion or anything like that. Even the spiritual terms, we bristle with antagonism. Those days are gone. You know, we've got to tap in. We've learned that whatever the human frailties of various faiths may be, those faiths have given purpose and direction to millions. Tap into what they have to teach us. We used to amuse ourselves by cynically dissecting spiritual beliefs and practices, when in actual fact, this is what we're going to be doing from now on. We observe that many spiritually minded persons of all races, all colours and creeds were demonstrating a degree of stability, happiness, and usefulness that we should have been seeking for ourselves. This is where we live now. Set aside every single thing you think you know about what's happening in this world today. Set it all aside. The human frailties are causing the issues in the world today. The human frailties. Our power comes from somewhere else. Set aside every single thing we think we know about every faith, every denomination, and tune into what this power needs you to be part of. Your prayer, your meditation, so that you can bring that love, compassion, kindness, understanding, all of those beautiful things into your world. Because when you bring it into your world, you can impact the rest of the world. And that's not woo-woo. It is not woo-woo. My thought process can impact the rest of the world. Like it talks about in the foreword to the second edition. Intensive work, one alcoholic with another, can ensure permanent recovery. Not my own permanent recovery, not only my own permanent recovery, but the permanent recovery of everybody across the world. That's how much power we have. And so it goes on into the third meditation as we go through the day. Who knew you could meditate as you go through the day? The first instruction, we pause. Boom. Even if it's for a millisecond. When do we pause? When agitated or doubtful. All in that pause, all in that breath. And then what do? A prayer. And ask for the right thought or action. It's that thing at the top of page 59. May you find him now. May you find him now. May you find him now. We pause, we breath, we ask for the right thought or action. Because here's another little thing to percolate, ponder, and contemplate on. People, your thoughts are not your own. Your thoughts are not private. All of those little things that you're thinking about the person that's standing in front of you, they're not private. They're manifesting itself in so many other ways. And remember, you're connected to that power that is greater than you. Every single moment of the day that you can tap into, your thoughts are not private. So the other day, This is a little example. My boss came into the room, and you know I have this face, that's what we call it in Belfast, your bake. Your boat race, isn't that what you call it? Your boat race? Anyway, my bake obviously was not looking too kind, because my boss said to me, Mags, you look in bad form. I was like, oh, do you? Now at that point, my thought was, well, let me tell you why. I'm in bad form. But the thing about it is, and the reason why I'm telling you this example is, my thoughts are not private. My thoughts are not my own. My thoughts on that day were manifesting itself on my bake. My thoughts were manifesting itself to the world externally. My boss could see that I was not thinking well. My boss could see that I was thinking badly. I was in bad form. And in that moment, I was like, oh my God, ask God to remove all of what was going on and resolutely turn my thoughts to be helpful. That's what had to happen. Because my thoughts, like, this is ridiculous. I was wanting to kill dead things that day. That's where my thoughts were coming to, because everybody around me, Sandra, you know this, every single person around me on that particular day was having this stubborn habit that they have of having their own personalities. And it was driving me to absolute and utter distraction. So I'm thinking, when I'm looking at you and you're coming and asking me for help, my thoughts are you asking me the same question again? I've already told you this answer 10 times. What part of you can't what part of you is stupid enough to not be able to understand this really simple thing? What's wrong with you? But of course, I wasn't saying that out loud. That was all going on inside my head, right? But this was an opportunity. My boss was honest enough with me to say, Mags, take a look at yourself. And in that moment, boom, I had the opportunity to change my mind, take a breath and go, do you know what? You're right. Can we have a talk? And then in that moment, the energy was changing, the energy shifted, da-da-da-da-da. The thought, my thoughts are not my own. They're not private, because what also can happen is my thoughts become my actions and my actions become my words. My thoughts become my words become my actions. Whatever way you want to look at it, my thoughts then become something else. So if I'm not then checking in with something else to help clear my thoughts of all of the self-seeking motives that are going on inside me, it can result in a very different outcome. It can result in a very different day for me and the individuals around me. I am so awake to that these days. And my practice of reflection on an evening and getting those corrective measures to bring in another simple attitude, a different attitude into the next day, or even another attitude and simple change in direction into the next moment, is such an incredible superpower. It's a superpower that we've been given. We constantly remind ourselves that we are no longer running the show. Constantly reminding ourselves that the thing that was happening to me at work the other day, I was trying to run the show. I can't change these people. They're only doing the best they can with what they've got. Those people are incredible individuals. I was frustrated with myself. It was nothing to do with the external. It was all that was going on inside me. The pressure that I was putting on myself to fix all of this stuff. It's not me to fix these people. All I have to do is to continue to work on myself. And I got those reminders through the day. What a powerful thing to be able to learn more and more and more about all of these blocks inside me that are rising to the surface to be fixed. That's what this is all about. Humbly we say to ourselves each day, so many times, millions of times each day, thy will be done. Please, God, power, spirit of the universe, boss universal, spirit of nature, spirit of the universe, realm of the spirit, Christ, all of those 42 pronouns, different words for God. Please, God, Father of light, shine it on me and show me what I need to do. Thy will be done, not mine. And as a result of that, we are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, anger, worry, self-pity, or foolish decisions. We 100% become much more efficient. At this point, I always think of like a heart monitor. You know, in any given day, I used to go peak, trough, peak, trough, peak, trough, peak, trough. The heart monitor was going up and down, up and down, up and down. Frantic, 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 frantic. You know? And it was exhausting. You know, those days that you can get like that is absolutely exhausting. But through this practice every single day, this pausing when agitated, this constant asking for the support and the help and the direction and for a different thought to come. The peaks and troughs of my emotions and feelings no longer impact me the way they used to. I become much more in line, aligned, whatever the word is that you choose to describe it. I'm able to deliver more. I'm able to experience more, but in a less frenetic way, less chaos around the place, less chaos and frantic reactions inside me. That's the power of all of this. And in becoming much more efficient, I don't tire as easily either. That's what it goes on to say, because I'm not burning up energy foolishly trying to run around and fix all of the people around me. When I was trying to run the show myself, I'm not alone. I'm not a solo worker. I've got a team around me. And the most important member of that team is my new employer, the boss universal, my friend. That relationship with this power. I am never alone in any of this. And the definite laser precision line, it works. It works. It really does. It really and truly does. This took me a lot of practice, and it continues to take a lot of practice, but I could get emotional right now about the difference and the change that this practice of 10 and 11 has made in my life. It is phenomenal. It is vital, and that meaning life-giving. It gives me energy, breath, thoughts. It is the most experiential, and you have to experience this. You have to experience it. And in order to experience it, you've got to do it. You've got to take the action in order to experience the abundance of everything positive that is given to you in your life through this daily, hourly, minute by minute practice. Oh my God, I ask everybody, I urge everybody, I'm almost like begging you like they do on page 49 to experience this, because it is absolutely and utterly mind-blowing what is given to you and the difference that it makes to your life and the difference that it makes to everybody else. It does take practice. It annoys me sometimes that I have to do this, but then I look at myself because look at the difference. This is life beyond your wildest dream stuff. And I have got so many examples that I can't even articulate it because they just keep coming and coming and coming and coming. If my mind is opened enough to receive them, if I am awake, this is what keeps me awake. The worldly clamours, whatever. Let everybody get on with the worldly clamours. We're here to play the role that he assigns us and to do his work well. That's my mission. That's my assignment. And it feels rocky. It feels as if it's, revolutionary and there's noise and there's all of that stuff that we talked about back in step 4. But life is no longer like that. Life is no longer like that, because no matter what worldly clamour comes, I have a set of tools that enables them to be removed and solved in a very easy and calm way. But it takes work, because here's the thing, they remind us we alcoholics are undisciplined. Yeah, you bet we are. So we let God discipline us in the simple way we've just outlined. Discipline, action. This is what our life is all about. And we reap so many rewards as a result. But this is not all. I love they always slip another little thing in. You think, happy days, my life is glorious and I'm just going to go off skipping through the daffodils into an Easter weekend. And if it's not Easter weekend for you, you're still going to skip off into the daffodils and have a beautiful weekend, because you'll be floating because you've been praying and meditating so much and you've been reaping the rewards of helping so many people. And this is just a wonderful life, singing beautiful songs as you skip through the daffodils. But here's the thing. There's action. And more action whilst you're skipping through those daffodils and singing those beautiful songs, because you're going to have a whole army of people following you through there. Because what you've now got to do is more work. Faith without works is dead. Remember, page 14, how we enlarge our spiritual life through work and self-sacrifice with others. The next chapter is entirely devoted to step 12. Next week, we build our army. We start to talk about how we practice these principles in all of our affairs. We build an army. We try to carry this message to other alcoholics so they can skip through the daffodils with us and build their army. So get ready for action. Faith without works is dead. I'll leave it at that.